Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. Last weekend, Grand Prix Stockholm and Hong Kong occurred, two major modern events, and as you can imagine, those results have impacted a number of cards in the secondary market. We'll talk about that today as we go through our video. Also, Guilds of Ravnica previews concluded last week, so we now know all the cards that are coming out as people start thinking about how those cards are going to influence decks that already exist or how the new standard's going to shape up. As you can imagine, there's some ripple effects from that information as well. So quickly before we get started though, just a fast reminder, if you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to help us, one of which is our Patreon page. You're also going to find some links to products on Amazon down there. If you make any purchases on Amazon, no matter what it is, we'll get a small percentage for the channel. And finally, Flipside Gaming still offering a promo code for our viewers. And hopefully you can save a little cash while you support the channel. As always, sincerely, thank you not only to the folks that look at those links, but to all the viewers. Y'all make the channel what it is. I appreciate y'all. With that being said, let's get into it. We'll begin in a moment with the top 5 standard legal cards that have lost value this week. But first, I wanted to check in on 3 of those welcome deck cards that we've been talking about over the last few weeks. They are finally starting to cool down. Don't buy them yet if you're a collector of those type of cards. They will go down more, but I wanted to show you that they are starting to cool off. Sun Sentinel, this can only be found in the white welcome deck. It is not in any other Magic 2019 products. It's down 60 cents this week to 170, still a little too expensive. Mistcloaked Herald went down 67 cents to 256, still very expensive when it comes to this card, but it is going down. You can only find this in the next card in the blue welcome deck. And that next card is Befuddled, down $1.42 to $1.54. Pretty significant decrease, but it's still got a ways to go. Alright, let's move to our top 5. Resplendent Angel is number 5, down 57 cents to $11.04. This card did pretty well in standard early on in those night decks, but that night deck never quite broke into the top tier. However, rotation is coming, and that deck isn't losing a lot of pieces. So between what's there and what's coming with Guilds of Ravnica, I have no doubt that the deck will do well. Resplendent Angel could very well still be a part of that deck and could also show up in some other strategies going forward. So I do think there's a good chance that in the new meta, this card does well and goes back up within the next few weeks. Right now, it is going down, but notice that $11 is still a high price point considering the lack of play that's going on with this card. People are just going to wait. They're not selling these all off right now. They want to wait and see what happens over the next few weeks. Number 4, Liliana Death's Majesty, down 62 cents to $9.16. Now, this is a card that is rotating out. Most cards that were rotating out of standard already kind of hit their rock bottom price as people started to liquidate a number of weeks ago, shortly after Magic 2019 came out. But because this card was seeing a lot of play recently in those Dimir mid-range decks, many players held on to these a little bit longer. Now they're starting to sell off. This will go down a lot more over the next couple weeks. Number 3, Tezzeret Artifice Master, down 68 cents to $10.50. This was a key part of that mono blue artifact deck that was kicking around standard this season. Didn't put up huge results, but it was a fun deck. A lot of people did like to play it. Now, with Kaladesh rotating out, unfortunately, and not really seeing a lot of prospects when it comes to this card coming from Guilds of Ravnica, I think this one is about to have a pretty major drop. It hasn't happened yet, although you're starting to see signs of it. Just simply because, again, people are going to wait before they want to liquidate all their stuff that is not going to be rotating out. So they're going to give this card a chance, but I don't really think anything materializes, at least in this next meta. So expect some big losses over the next couple weeks. Number 2, Liliana Untouched by Death, down 74 cents to $7. This card was hot recently, partially sure it was because of casual players that like to play with Zombie Tribal. But also serious competitive players were thinking that the zombie deck could have some legs in the new meta after rotation. A lot of key cards are sticking around. Now with Guilds of Ravnica, I think a lot of those brewers changed their focus to Golgari and Sultai because those appear to be the stronger colors coming out of the set. Golgari cards with their graveyard interactions, the Dimir cards with Serval, I think is where a lot of people went to. So, zombies kind of fell off the radar a little bit, but it doesn't mean that they could not be successful in the new meta. This one probably goes down a little more in the next week or so, but if zombies can pull it out in the new meta, this will go up quickly. Number 1, Nicol Bolas the Ravager, down $1.32 to $28.25. Very high price tag again, considering the lack of play this card's been seeing recently. Now, it started off strong in Standard and Dragons decks, and There's a chance Dragon decks could do okay in the next meta because they aren't losing a lot of their pieces. They're not necessarily gaining a lot from guilds, but they're not losing much. Or you could maybe see the Grixis mid-range deck be able to hang in there. Obviously, there's some more control elements coming in the Izzet and Dimir colors, so maybe it becomes Grixis control of some kind running this. So it's possible, and I do think Nicol Bolas does see some play. But $28.25 is a pretty big price tag for this card. It's got to see a lot of play to be able to maintain that, and I just don't feel that, again, especially with the focus on Golgari right now. So this card will continue to go down in the coming weeks. Alright, let's move on to the top 5 standard legal cards that have gained value this week, and starting off, though, we have one honorable mention. It's Carnage Tyrant of 40 cents to $19.49. This card's been going up slowly over the last couple weeks, not necessarily huge increases, but percentage-wise, not bad. Partially, this could be because it is seeing a little modern play. Some of the Titan Shift decks are running this as a one-of out of the sideboard, so maybe that's the reason the card's gaining a little momentum. But I do think, again, a lot of people are thinking about this card and how good it could be post-rotation. I think green gets better. I do think Sultai could be a thing. Golgari definitely will be a thing. So you put it all together, and I do think a lot of people are speculating that at least out of the sideboard, they're going to be playing more Carnage Tyrant soon. Number 5, Veltroth the Gravetide of 66 cents to 408. Yes, believe it or not, people are actually thinking about this card for standard play. Commander players still love this card too, and that will influence the price, especially considering this is getting more toys to play with thanks to Guilds of Ravnica. However, there's a chance that this card actually sees standard play because of Undergrowth, because of cards like Assassin's Trophy that are coming, because of the Surveil mechanic with the Dimir cards. This card stands to get a whole lot better real soon, and if it can get there, it will take off. Number 4, Stitcher Supplier up 77 cents to $2.20. Okay, we know what this card does in the Bridgevine decks in Modern. It's been fantastic there. Doesn't look like that deck's going anywhere. But there's more to the story. This uncommon is up to $2.20. That's saying something. And again, it falls back to what's coming from Guilds of Ravnica. With the Undergrowth mechanic, with cards like Assassin's Trophy, I have no doubt we're going to be playing a lot of Stitcher Suppliers in Standard very, very soon. Number 3, Walking Ballista, up 80 cents to $13.99. Now, this is a card that is rotating out, so why is it going up? Well, because it's amazing in every other format. Vintage Shops, Legacy Eldrazi Stompy, just to name one deck there. Modern, many key decks are running this. Just look at the top 8 of GP Hong Kong this past weekend. Hardened Scales Affinity, as well as Mono Green Tron, both running 4 copies of this, coming in first and second place in that tournament. Not to mention other key decks right now, like Bridgevine, for example, and others. This card is all over the place. If you missed out, because this hit rock bottom a few weeks ago when the standard players were still liquidating, at this point, it's going to keep creeping up over time until eventually someday it gets reprinted. By that point, who knows what the card's going to cost. If you missed your opportunity to get these 3-4 weeks ago, don't wait any longer. Get your playset now. They're not getting cheaper. Number 2, History of Benalia, up 99 cents to $11.95. This card definitely was good in its early days in Standard. Recently, it's fallen off a little bit, but there's a lot of prospects for this in the future. Again, the Knights deck, I do feel like it could really make a comeback, especially in the early portion of the meta. It's a deck a lot of people are familiar with. It's just an easy deck to upgrade. It's keeping most of its good cards. So I do think this sees increased play soon, and apparently a lot of other people think so too. Number 1, Teferi Hero of Dominaria. Who else could it be up? $2.23 to $49.80. Wow, touching $50 now. Why did it get such a big bump this week? Is it because of Guilds of Ravnica? Not necessarily, although let's talk Standard first. I don't think this card's going anywhere. The control decks have been amazing. There's more control elements coming in Guilds of Ravnica. Maybe you'll see some Esper control or something like that running this card. But just look at GP Stockholm, for example. There were 3 Azorius control decks in that particular top 8, all of them running 2 copies of Teferi in the main and copies of Jace the Mind Sculptor. Jace and Teferi, they're partners in crime now in Modern Control. There was a Jeskai control deck that was running Teferi, not even running Jace. So you put it all together, this has become a Modern Control staple and it's not going anywhere. Now, the amount of play that it sees doesn't make me feel like this particular card, at least at this point, unless something changes and maybe it picks up more play in Legacy or Vintage eventually or something like that. But the way it stands, I don't necessarily see this being a Liliana the Veil or Jace the Mind Sculptor in a couple of years. But it could very well be a $60, $70 card, maybe 2.5 years down the road. So this is another one of those big players that is going to mean something even after it rotates out of standard. If you don't have your play set yet, I would consider biting the bullet. If you can find these maybe around $40, $45 if you shop around, it might not be the worst deal. All right, let's move on to the top 5 modern legal cards that have lost value this week. Coming in at number 5 is Privileged Position, down $1.22 to $26.99. This card got really hot recently as an upgrade card to the Bant Adaptive Enchantment deck. And then right when it started to cool down, Saffron Olive on MTG Goldfish featured it in another deck running 4 copies of it. And that drew a little more attention back to it and it warmed up again. Finally, it's going down. It's not going to go down all that much, I don't think, because it is a card that's pretty difficult to find and is popular among casual players. Maybe it goes down to the lower 20s, though, at least. Number 4, Liliana the Val from Modern Masters 2017, down $1.46 to $91.20. Now, this had a pretty big spike last week, if you remember, and that was due to the fact that this, as well as many other Jund cards, were jumping with the reveal of Assassin's Trophy. Now, a lot of people speculate that that card could make Jund a little more consistent in Modern. But, with that being said, guess what? Jund did get to the top 8 of GP Hong Kong last weekend. But that's kind of what Jund does. It puts up a huge result, then you don't hear about it for a couple weeks, then another huge result. Could Assassin's Trophy change that? Well, maybe. Time will tell. But when some cards spike like this one did, you can imagine there's sometimes a retraction, and that's exactly what's happening this week. I don't think this goes down much more. It will probably stabilize around $90 until people see what kind of impact the new card will have. Number 3, Crucible of Worlds from 10th edition, down $2 to $26.99. Of course, this card has been soft recently due to the reprinting in Magic 2019. And it's going down, but it's not going down as fast as it was. So I do think it will start to stabilize soon, maybe in a couple weeks. Probably in the low 20s for this particular copy of the card. It's a great casual card, fantastic upgrade for the Jund Nature's Vengeance deck from Commander 2018, for example, but also sees competitive play as well. Sometimes one-ofs in decks, but it is out there. So this is one that will probably hit its low price very soon. Number 2, Horizon Canopy from Future Sight, down $2.85 to $76.37. Much like Liliana, this card spiked recently. You're seeing some retraction this week. It's all over the place in Modern, though. Just look at the GPs last weekend, right? Huge decks running this, like Humans, for example, but so many others. This also sees Legacy play. This card isn't going anywhere, so over time, this will recover and continue to climb back up. The reason the Future Sight version is the money card, though, is because it's so unique. First off, it's harder to find. Print run was low. And secondly, it's got the unique border. It's got the unique art. Players just like this copy. The Iconic Masters version is going up slowly as well, but it's just climbing slow over time. This one gets very spiky from time to time. Number 1, Darksteel Forge from Plane Chase, down $5.10 this week to $13.99. You might remember this card spiked a few weeks ago. Pretty aggressively, actually. That will happen sometimes with cards from these supplemental sets just because as people start to get interested in the card, they go to the online marketplace to pick it up. The cards that are less plentiful, many times it's those supplemental sets, they dry up first, so you start to see a more exaggerated spike there. That's what happened with this card. But who is buying it? Commander players. Good upgrade for the Commander 2018 Exquisite Invention deck, as a matter of fact. But it's good in a whole lot of decks. Now, there's a second part to this story we'll talk about in a moment. Alright, let's move on to the top 5 modern legal cards that have gained value this week. Coming in at number 5 is Darksteel Forge from Darksteel, up $2.16 to $14.99. So the Plane Chase version almost predicted the spike of this one as everything started to normalize. Now that things have normalized, Plane Chase has gone down as more copies of that started getting listed, and this one started to dry up a little more. So this is now $1 more than the Plane Chase one, but they are kind of meeting each other in the middle right now. Number 4, Blackcleave Cliffs, up $2.30 to $52.24. This card was hot last week too, another card that benefited from the reveal of Assassin's Trophy. Just simply because it's a part of the Jund mana base, but it's also a part of a lot of other solid mana bases in Modern. Number 3, Tarmogoyf. Another card that we saw jump last week goes up a little more this week. Modern Masters 2017 goes up $183 to $72.98. Modern Masters 2015 goes up $189 to $77.20. Modern Masters goes up $250 to $75. Yes, Jund did well last weekend. Also, Assassin's Trophy, of course, looming large over that deck. But this is also part of the Abzan deck, another solid deck that also might benefit from Assassin's Trophy. Number 2, Ulamog the Infinite Gyre, up $260 to $29.99. This is the Rise of the Eldrazi version. This card's weird, up and down, up and down. Who's playing the thing? a little bit of modern play, just a little bit. Sometimes you'll find this in like a mono green Tron deck, but honestly, most of the modern and legacy players have moved away from this card in favor of Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger. This is still very popular though in Commander. That's really why the price is being driven. I do think this is stabilizing maybe around the high 20s. I think like $28, $26 is more of a fair price for this card right now. Number 1, Jace the Mind Sculptor. He is back again. Masters 25 up $1.93 to $87.87. World Wake up $3.40 to $99.99. From the Vault 20 up $4.78 to $93.73. Also, Eternal Masters did go up a little bit too, not quite as much as the others, but it's also on the rise. So what happened with Jace this week? Well, a couple things. The main thing, of course, was the modern tournaments. I mentioned GP Stockholm. 3 Azorius control decks, each running Jace the Mind Sculptor in the main. Yeah, people are going to notice that, and of course the card's going to go up. Now next week, maybe it does snap back just a little bit, but I do think over time the trend for this card will be going up. The other thing that has really pushed this card recently is the Legacy Miracles deck. Card looks fantastic there, and that deck has been very strong. Alright, let's move on to our Vintage Magic Spotlight, where we look at some of the older Magic cards that are having large percentage increases. We're going to look at 4 cards from Unlimited and then another card that's actually seeing a fair amount of Legacy play right now. Stasis from Unlimited at $14.65 to $60. I've been saying every week the story with these Unlimited cards is that a lot of stores I think are more interested and sellers are more interested in these now. They're still very sought after. Collectors want them, 93, 94 players want them, but they're not as insanely expensive and as hard to move as Alpha and Beta cards. So I think this is a trend that's going to continue. Now, this one is not on the reserve list. There's cheaper copies. This did get a reprint and revised, 4th edition, 5th edition, for example. So if you want this card, you can still find it cheaper. One of the key things about this card, though, is that unique art. I've always really liked that. Mahamodi Jin from Unlimited up $22.93 to $48.12. Same story here, not on the reserve list. It's been reprinted many times. Verder and Enchantress from Unlimited up $89.99 to $157.95, like the other cards we looked at, not on the reserve list. It's been reprinted. You can find cheap copies of this card. And it is a good upgrade for the Commander 2018 Adaptive Enchantment deck, if you happen to have that. Also, this has seen a little legacy as well as modern play over the years. You might remember a few months back, there was some serious market manipulation around this version of the card. It went up hundreds of dollars overnight, stayed up there for a couple of weeks too, until the person that was manipulating those prices took down their exaggerated listings. That was crazy if you just glanced at the price and didn't explore why it was so high, but this is more of a normal buyout. And one more Unlimited card, Force Field, although this one is on the reserve list. Good 93-94 card too, up $140.18 to $475. This one does tend to jump up and then go back down, and I do think that's because on any given week there's not a lot of copies in good condition available on the online marketplace. Here's the Legacy card I was alluding to, Back to Basics, up $227.65 to $300. What? We've been talking about this card for the last couple weeks. I hope you got your copies 2 weeks ago when it was at $60 on the Market Watch, but unfortunately that's not the case right now. Over the last 24 hours, there was a buyout. This card jumped up quite a bit. At the beginning of the week, it was at 80. Like I said, a week or two ago, it was at 60. Now, what happened here? Well, first off, players were interested in the card because ever since the banned and restricted update for Legacy, a lot of decks running this got better, Miracles being the primary one, but also Stoneblade. You'll even find this in the deck that came in first place in the Star City Games Legacy Classic in Syracuse last weekend, Azorius Helm. 2 copies there, one in the main, one in the sideboard. Go figure. So there's a lot of people interested in the card for play reasons. Once that happens, considering this card is very old, it's never been reprinted, although it's not on the reserve list, very important to note, but because it is drying up everywhere, now maybe some people try to take advantage of that and try to buy out more copies on the online market, and that's what you're seeing right here. This definitely feels like a buyout because it happened so quickly. Either the people that bought it out have created some exaggerated listings, bringing the price up to $300, or other people are just taking advantage of the fact that the card has dried up. Either or, this price isn't stable. It will go down, but it's not going back down to where it was. I do think the people that bought it out, though, are going to look to turn it over quickly, and if they can't sell it at $300, they will start lowering the price very fast, because it is not a reserve list card. It is a very risky card to buy up at a high price, because if it does get a reprint at some point, or even a rumor of a reprint, you could see a price fall very quickly. So this is one to keep an eye on. I feel bad for any Legacy player that waited on this one. Eventually, though, I have to believe we'll get a reprint. All right, let's move on to our Commander Spotlight. Things are a little cooler this week, but a few cards to look at. Oracle of Moldiah up $1.02 this week to $34.60. This card is always a fantastic Commander card, very hot. It was even hotter recently because it was a good upgrade to the Commander 2018 Nature's Vengeance deck. Notorious Throng, another card that's been hot recently, up $1.70 to $7.05. This is a part of those Yuriko decks. You can find Yuriko in the Subjective Reality Commander 2018 deck. A lot of folks just pull her out of there and build around her. Goblin Spymaster up $1.75 to $3.73. This is from Commander 2016. Has yet to see a reprint. Part of the reason it's going up as quickly as it is. But this is a part of those Xantcha decks. People are trying this out there. It's actually very good there. Xantcha can be found in the Nature's Vengeance Commander 2018 deck, much like Yuriko. A lot of folks are just pulling her out of that deck and building around her completely. Angus Mackenzie, this is a Reserve List Legends card of $547 this week to $264.97. We talked about this one last week, so I just wanted to give you a quick update. It is still going up, albeit a lot slower than it was going up. And it is a really cool Pillow Fort card if you can afford it, but obviously I don't think a lot of Commander players are splurging on this. I think at this point it's going up because of collectors. Phyrexian Dreadnought from Mirage, up $731 to $46.25 this week, and yes, this card climbs yet again. Last week we saw this on the list because of its interaction with a card from Guilds of Ravnica that's coming out, Lazav. Lazav can turn into this for just 1 mana if this is in the graveyard, and that could lead to some crazy shenanigans, as you can imagine. So yes, Commander players are interested in this. There's even people trying to figure this one out for Legacy or maybe even Vintage. We'll have to see if it gets there. But you couple that excitement with the fact that this is a reserve list card, and of course you're seeing some big price increases. Curse of Opulence up $18.24 to $19.23. What just happened? Yes, this card from Commander 2017 got really hot within the last about 12 to 24 hours. And I'm going to let you in on a secret. If you go to eBay right now, eBay has not caught up with this spike. You might be able to grab these for a few dollars if you hurry. So check it out. Hopefully they're still there. Now, if you go to TCG Player, the cheap copies are gone and everyone's listing these things for between $15 and $30 all day long. So people have started to catch on to the fact that this is a very good card in a couple popular builds right now. Brutaclad, one of the optional commanders from Exquisite Invention, as well as Xantcha, who we mentioned before from Nature's Vengeance. This interacts very well in both of those type of builds. Now, if you wait a week or so, yes, this will retract because people will see this. They're going to say, hey, I have copies of that I don't use. They're going to go sell them for a little bit cheaper online. There'll be more competition, more copies, and this will come down. But it's not going to go back down to where it was before this spike. This is a very solid card, and a lot of Commander players are interested in it right now. All right, again, not a lot happening in Pauper this week to talk about, so that is our Market Watch. Tomorrow, we're going to be back with part 4 of our 5-part Guilds of Ravnica set review. We're going to be looking at the Izzet cards, and then Monday we'll wrap that up with Selesnya, so check that out. But until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. I just realized probably nobody's here anymore because everyone went to eBay to get their Curse of Opulence. But anyway, if you're still here, thanks. See ya. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.